About Basingstoke was pleased to be invited to record a special event last week, organised by Mark Jones and the Stronger Together Forum. In a live discussion, Mark, who also hosts the Mr. Blue Sky Conversations podcast, was joined at Anvil Arts The Forge by Basingstoke MP Luke Murphy. This podcast is in two parts. Part one is a one-to-one chat in front of the audience, and part two is an audience Q&A. Here comes part one.
Luke, thank you so much for giving your time and for being here today. So Harold Wilson coined that phrase about a week being a long time in politics. What's it been like the last few weeks, Luke?
Firstly, I can't see everyone because of the lights, but thank you everyone for coming, and particularly to the Anvil for giving this me and Mark this opportunity to speak to you. As you said, it's an absolutely fantastic venue, and I always feel really proud that we've got the Anvil here in Basingstoke, and indeed is where we did the Town of Culture bid. Sadly, not to be. Went to Basildon, as many of you might know. Yeah. We're on the shortlist, but it is a fantastic venue, so it's great to be here. Well, it's been a few weeks. It's been busy, but I think also exciting. I think, and I'm optimistic. You know, change is never easy, and this is one of the biggest changes I think you could go through as a government and a political party. But ultimately, I think it has been the right thing to do, and I think that's been shown, although we obviously there's a lot of significant challenges that we need to meet as a country and the government, but I think Andy's hit the ground running. I think he's showed that kind of optimism and hope that people are looking for the future, that people in Basingstoke are looking for, that the country is looking for, while also being quite realistic about some of the big challenges that we face. He's out there today with the new Defence Secretary talking about defence and nuclear deterrent. He's been, as he said, running towards problems like social care, and an intractable problem that's been there for 20, really since the inception of the NHS, actually. So it's been busy. It's been, it's not always, change isn't always easy, and it has been, I'm not going to claim it hasn't been a difficult moment for MPs to a degree and the party, but I do think it's the right thing to have done, and I think we're in a good place, and I'm looking forward to working with Andy and as part of the whole kind of government team to deliver on the promise of change that we committed to in 2024. Yeah,
it's interesting you say it's the right thing to have done, because you were very loyal to secure. You still are, I'm sure. You must have gone through quite a gamut of emotions, really.
Yeah, because by my nature, I am loyal, and I think Keir deserved a hearing and an opportunity to deliver for the country. I said I didn't think it was right to have a leadership contest. I think in that sense we've ended up in the best scenario. It was quite clear that it had become unsustainable, and I think he recognised that, and I think he did ultimately the really dignified thing in resigning, recognising that he actually has achieved a lot over the last 2 years in government, and indeed before that as leader of the Labour Party. But I think he recognised, as he said in his speech, that now was the time to kind of hand the baton over to someone who can build on the foundations that he'd laid. So I think, I think Keir delivered as Prime Minister on many things, and there's areas where I think genuinely people will never know what he did. So I just give an example. I'm lucky enough to be on the Armed Forces Scheme, and when I speak to our troops and some of the senior officers, and what he did in terms of setting up the coalition in the Willing and delivering on Ukraine. Ukraine's border, to a greater or lesser degree, is our border, because if we give an inch to Russia, they'll take a yard. If they make it through Ukraine, they'll make it further into Europe. And Keir was absolutely instrumental in bringing together that coalition in the Willing and holding the line, and despite a huge amount of difficulties, holding the line with the United States, making sure they were committed to NATO and Ukraine, and not doing something rather more drastic, which I think a lot of people thought that might be done at the time. So I think you can be really proud of those achievements while also recognising that it was time for a change. Yeah.
Do you feel frustrated, though, in a way that perhaps that you talk about the achievements, they just don't seem to have landed in many ways?
Yeah, I think what sometimes when I have meetings with Labour Party members, or actually a lot of members of the residents, when they come to my coffee afternoons or other events, or when I'm speaking to residents on the door, they do talk about that. People who are supportive of the government that say, "Oh, why can't you get a hearing?" And it's easy to blame others. It's easy to blame the media, but Labour governments have always faced challenges with the media, and it's more fractured than it's ever been in the social media landscape. I think if you go back 10 years, the place where most people will get their news from, it was unequivocally really clear, it was the BBC. It was BBC News, and that was still the case. Now it's kind of vying with YouTube about where people get their news from. So we live in a quite fractured media environment. You have to be a different kind of communicator. So to a degree it's frustrating, but it's frustrating with ourselves that we can't get across some of the good things that we're doing. But also I think people are rightly impatient for change. They're frustrated. We've had a cost of living crisis that have lasted for 15 years, public services that haven't been in a good state for many years, and people rightly want to see that difference. They want to see that change. Change does take time. I think some of it is coming through, but there is a lot more to do. I'm sure we can get into the detail. So yes, it is frustrating, but Keir, I think, did sometimes struggle to connect with the public in a way in which Andy clearly is able to, and I think that's coming across.
Yeah. You went on to Makerfield hustings with Andy Burnham. What was that like?
The by-election, you mean?
Yeah, the by-election. Yeah.
It was positive. I think one of the most exciting things about it was just the positive story that he was telling to people in Makerfield about the changes that he wanted to make. There was less about what the other parties were doing or might do, and he was selling that. I think what he's done since he's been elected as Prime Minister is telling that story of optimism and of hope, recognising that yes, there's big challenges out there, but he's going to run towards them, and that he's going to try and fix those problems. So not shying away from the fact that we face some quite significant challenges, but that story of optimism and hope, and that came across because people that otherwise might have voted or even had very recently voted for other parties in the local elections, whether that be Green or Reform or other parties, were willing to put their trust in Andy, and it was an exciting. It was an exciting moment, but an important moment. Yeah. But it already feels like it was 10 years ago.
I know. Yeah, it does, doesn't it? Is he someone you know well?
I wouldn't say that I know him well, but I've had the opportunity to. So when I was involved with the Labour Party between 2010 and 2015, I'd met him then, so I knew him a bit then. But I wouldn't say kind of on close terms or anything. But I've had the opportunity to meet him a couple of times since, and I think he's really engaging. I think I wanted to. He's rightly talking about devolution. He's rightly talking about spreading power out across the country. I wanted to ensure that. And was completely reassured that also meant for places like Basingstoke, seats like Basingstoke, places in the south, where yes, some people might think, oh, they're affluent, but actually have severe challenges and pockets of deprivation, and also face the same challenges that many other places across the country face on public services, on cost of living, and was reassured by that, and had the opportunity to meet him with a number of colleagues and have a chat about what his priorities are, and the way in which he wanted to govern both the PLP and Parliament and as a Prime Minister as well. So I think he's a decent guy who I think has learnt a lot in politics since he was first elected, and he's got a long career of being Health Secretary, being in the Cabinet, then going away and learning, I think, as a mayor, and he wants to bring all that experience to bear in the civil service and in the government. So that's a very long answer to a question.
No,
I've met him, but we're not close colleagues or anything.
Things must feel, though, very different. If we just go back 4 weeks, so 2 weeks before and then 2 weeks after, it must feel very different now.
It does. I mean, it's quite strange. I mean, it is quite strange in a way. But to be honest, I'm quite pragmatic in the sense of before, when Keir was Prime Minister, I was working incredibly hard for Basingstoke. I was performing my role as the PPS to the transport team. Now Andy Burnham's Prime Minister. I'm working incredibly hard for Basingstoke, and I'm continuing my role as... I think it can seem sometimes a bit more disruptive from the outside than it actually is to your kind of average MP. Who the vast majority, the overwhelming majority of us, unless you're really involved in kind of right at the heart as like a new cabinet minister, or you're kind of part of the team, you're doing what you've always done. I've wanted to, in the run up to him coming in, and then since being elected, making sure that, I've been speaking to his team, getting across what the challenges are in Basingstoke, ensuring that they know what they are. So it does feel, of course it feels different, but also it still feels quite familiar in that I've been doing the same activities before and after, which is fighting for Basingstoke.
And he does know where Basingstoke is, does he? Because, of course, there's a lot of this thing, everybody thinks everything's going north at the moment. He's been here before, hasn't he?
He has, and I'm hoping that he will come here again in the near future. But in that conversation I had with him, he said straight away, "Oh, I remember in 2015 during one of my failed leadership campaigns," he said, "I hope this one goes rather better." I said, "I think you're probably on a surer bet this time." He remembered the Labour Club in Southam, where he was in 2015 as part of, I think he held an event there. So no, he was. He's got a good memory, and he knows Basingstoke, and he understands the needs of people in Basingstoke, and I'll always be there to make sure that he never doesn't forget them.
Oh, I'm sure you will. What are people saying to you on the doorsteps at the moment in Basingstoke?
I think, to be honest, a lot of the challenges that were raised pre-election and that we've been focused on, and that I've been focused on since, so access to GP appointments and the state of our public services, we've made progress, but there's still much more to do. The access to healthcare remains, I would say, one of the biggest issues, not just GPs, but dentistry as well. And that's quite common. It's raised in my coffee afternoons, it's raised on the door, it's raised in the surveys that I do, it's raised in my surgery. So that is a really consistent theme. I think we've done quite a lot. We've helped secure funding for Chinham surgery, for example, to upgrade from the National Fund, securing commitments from the local authority to invest in the expansion of Chinham surgery as well, working on the expansion of Winklebury. The government's also invested in the GP contract, but people are still facing massive issues with it. There's still a lot more progress to be made. Education, special educational needs and disabilities, which is also something I've made a big issue to work on, also comes up regularly. The day-to-day issues around potholes and just the state of the environment, continue to be raised. I think we've given record funding to Hampshire County Council to fix that. I certainly want to see more done. And also just cost of living. I think obviously access to GP is a national problem, but we have distinct challenges here with the degree to which infrastructure hasn't been provided with new housing development, but cost of living. And I think that this is the thing that I always want to disperse the kind of the preconceived ideas that people might have of places like Basingstoke. People in Basingstoke are struggling just like they are everywhere else. People much higher up the income spectrum are struggling. People that I think regularly say to me either that they're really struggling to get by. They might be using food banks. They're literally struggling to put food on the table. And then there are people who, they say to me, "Look, I'm in a good job. My partner's in a good job, but housing costs, my energy bill, we can't afford to do the things." And they say, sometimes they say luxuries, but they're not, like being able to take your family on holiday once a year, or maybe to go out for a meal, or go to take your kids to the cinema, or whatever it is. And way too many people are still struggling with that, and that is a big issue. And I think that's at the heart of the biggest challenge of our politics, of the country. Really, is that we've had an economy that hasn't grown in the way in which it should since the financial crash. And that has a massive impact on people's living standards in every part of the country. Loads of people are struggling. That's probably the biggest issue, and that's why I'm really Andy has put that front and centre. It's also why I take those issues into Parliament. I helped set up the Living Standards Coalition with a number of other MPs to ensure the focus is on cost of living. The government's done quite a few things on energy bills, on bus fares, on rail fares previously, on childcare to tackle those issues. But we need to go further, and we need to go faster. So I do think we're tackling those issues that are coming up regularly. But I don't think it's surprising that there's still similar ones that were coming up 2 years ago, because it does take time to feed through that change. That change does take time.
Yeah. It's it feels a bit odd sometimes in this country at the moment, doesn't it? I mean, how did you feel when you saw all those flags on the lampposts in Basingstoke go up?
Well, look, I'm a great supporter of our flag. I feel really proud to wear an England shirt. As I said, I'm on the Armed Forces Scheme. We've got the flag on the arm of the uniform. My sister and brother-in-law both served in the Armed Forces under the British flag and to defend our country, and I'm incredibly proud of it. But our flag is for everyone, and no one should feel that it is doing anything other than representing them, because we're a diverse country, we're a diverse town, and no one should ever feel that the flag is anything other than that. It should be a unifying symbol. So I don't support people who try to use the flag to divide us or intimidate people. I think we need to ensure that the flag is for everyone. There are clear rules about what you can put up, and it is up to Hampshire County Council to enforce that, and I think they should. That doesn't mean we can't celebrate our flag, and if they want to find ways to put it up in a more official way, maybe we could have more official flagpoles so we can celebrate our flag, but know that it is for all of us, because we are one country and we need to pull together. And I don't, one of the biggest worries is if we don't fix things like the cost of living crisis, it's easier to divide. It's easier to find ways to blame other people, put the blame on others, say it's this person's fault or it's that minority's fault or whatever it is. So we need to work really hard, I think, and I think the reflection of the organisation you've set up, and that many of the things that people here get involved in recognise that. I think the vast majority of people in Basingstoke recognise that. They want us to come together, act as one Basingstoke, and not try and divide. Yeah,
I mean, obviously loads of flags have been busy bees over the last few weeks. Do you feel better now the flags are down?
I think, I don't think that they were sending the message of unity, of one town, of one country, and that was Hampshire's job. I don't think they should have had to go out and do that. So I want to see ways which we can celebrate our flag, and not have them half-mast on a lamppost, strewn, which I don't think is doing service to what the flag means to me, what it means to the country, and I don't think it's doing service to the flag, which is supposed to be flown properly on a flagpole at full mast, doing it in the right way, rather than doing it in the wrong way.
Yeah. When we last spoke, I can't believe it was 2 years ago. Crikey, and it was only a couple of months after you come into office. So,
if my answers to your questions are as long for everyone, we'll still be here in 2 years.
Well, after 2 years as Basingstoke MP, what do you think makes this town tick and this borough tick?
I think it genuinely is the community. I think it's an incredibly strong community in Basingstoke, and it's not necessarily one. It's not that everyone is connected, although I think there was quite a strong heart. I recognise many of the people in the room, because I think it's great to have so many people from both businesses and charities that come together for these kind of events, and to work together for the town. But I do think it is the pockets of volunteering and community strength that really makes the town tick. The passion that people have for Basingstoke, the businesses that are part of Destination Basingstoke or part of your organisation, or the, I don't know whether they're here today, but Philip's Law is one example. And sorry, not
you can shout out Sarah and Kevin and John. We're here.
But one example. Sorry to name check one, and all the other businesses which I'm going to fail to mention. But sponsoring local charities, investing in the area, sponsoring local initiatives, and that's incredibly important. And it doesn't matter whether you go to Winklebury or whether you go whether you're in Chinham. The repair cafes. I was at the dementia carer support group on Tuesday. All of it powered by volunteers. I think there's a huge amount of community. The football tournament in Oakley, it's incredible. Like the kids' football tournament, and they have thousands of people come over the course of 2 days, and it's all done by volunteers. So I think that's what powers Basingstoke. I think that's what makes it special. And you can find that community spirit and volunteering in every part. And that's one of the great privileges of being the MP, is I get to see that. And I want more people to see that, because I think I don't know whether we spoke about it 2 years ago, but social media can give you a picture that we're incredibly divided. It promotes the negative, it provokes the shock, the attention economy. Maybe it doesn't grab the attention as much to see the kind of standard volunteering that happens over the course of 2 hours every Saturday for one group, or that happens on a Thursday morning to support older people. But that's what I love most about Basingstoke, and I think that's what sustains me in this role, knowing that there are people out there that really care for the community and want to see a better future for it.
Yeah. You promised when you became MP to be the most visible and accessible MP Basingstoke has ever had. How's that going?
Well, it's for others to judge. I guess I get told. I won't say what.
Shall we do a quick hand check? How many people have seen Luke at events and things going around? Yeah, you're doing all right.
Well, they have to put their hand up. They're literally in an event with me. But that's a great plant.
I said there'd be a few easy questions.
Well, I mean, I've said, that is for other people to judge, but I've certainly tried my best. So I've tried to, I door knock every Saturday, or certainly every Saturday that I can, unless there's other commitments. My default always to the team is, you have a diary folder as an MP, as you can imagine, and there's all sorts of ones for Westminster meetings and the weeks and stuff, and all the events you get invited to at Westminster. There's a Basingstoke folder, and the default in that folder is always yes. Like, I will go to anything that I can, diary permitting. And I enjoy it. I think it is the essential part of being a member of Parliament, is listening to people, understanding what their concerns are, and playing it back. You don't have the opportunity to work on everything. There's I can't remember who it was, but it might have been Ed Ball said on his podcast, the most valuable thing a politician has is their time and how you choose to spend it. I choose to spend my time listening and speaking to residents so much, because that's what then informs the other work that I then prioritise, because you can't work on every issue. So you have to work on the things that matter most to people in Basingstoke. So I try to do that through the coffee afternoons that I do, which I always really enjoy. And what I love about it is people come with totally different expectations. Some people just come with a really personal issue that we try and work through in the on the day, or maybe we follow up in a surgery. Some people come with, they want to talk about potholes. Other people want to talk about the crisis in Iran, all around one table. And some people just want to come for a biscuit and a cup of tea and just check that I don't have two heads. And that was a direct quote from someone recently. And then we've started to do Pint with Your MP as well, which we.
That sounds like a good idea.
Well, it's good to have a drink when people are raising issues. But the reason I'm doing that is because it attracts a different crowd.
Yeah.
So I asked people, why did you come for a pint rather than the coffee afternoon? And they said, well, I thought maybe the coffee afternoon was for someone older, so I thought maybe it'd be a different atmosphere. So I'm trying different things to reach different people, to try and bring them in, and then also doing the policy events as well. I've had assisted dying is a really good example. It's a really contentious issue. And people feel incredibly strongly about it. But we put on, I think it was the first public event we did, I think we had about 110 people there in Beacott. And despite the passion, it was an incredibly respectful debate where people from very different point of views were able to not agree, but agree disagreeably. Disagree agreeably rather, and have that constructive discussion. And I think that's really powerful. So it's not just about being visible, it's about bringing people together to have some of those conversations as well.
Yeah, and we touched on that. Not everybody will be aware. So what's your view on assisted dying?
So I supported the legislation. Obviously, it's been primarily because I think, and it wasn't, it was after the event. And the consultation, weighing up, I read every single piece of correspondence. It's probably the thing that people have written to me about most, I would say, on a consistent basis over the last 2 years. And people have genuinely held views. More people support it than don't. And I think the polling shows that. But for me, it's not really about who supports what. It's about what it is a matter of kind of conscience, I think. And for me, if you have a condition and you're dying in pain and in circumstances that you don't wish to and you want to have that choice, I believe people should have that choice, albeit you absolutely have to have the right safeguards in place. Now, some people don't believe people should have that choice, and I respect that view. Some people think the safeguards aren't strong enough. Some people would like the bill to go further. I took the view that I thought the safeguards were strong enough. I was quite frustrated that it was stopped in the Lords. So for those that don't know, it passed the House of Commons, it went into the Lords, and even Lords peers who support the bill, who don't support the bill, were frustrated by how it was frustrated by a minority of peers, because they didn't feel like they were really doing the role of scrutiny. They were talking it out. So, but it's come back, and I will listen to the arguments again. I'm not just going to take an automatic position of, I'll hear what people have to say, but ultimately, I think people do have that right. Although it's incredibly important that you have the protections in place for people that are vulnerable, people that have disabilities, and that meets the concerns of people that don't support it as well.
Yeah. What's been the highs and lows of your tenure so far then?
I mean, the highs, I think the things we've managed to achieve. Yeah. I think on SEND, which has been special education needs and disabilities, which has been a real, passion of mine. And it wasn't just because of the volume. I was just so struck when I was having conversations with people that there were. I can't remember what it was. It might have been Hatch Warren, because it was a while ago now. It was in the election campaign, and I was on a street, and one mother, was in tears with me talking about the challenges she'd faced with the system, and two doors, and felt incredibly alone, and had been failed, and her child had been failed, and then two doors down, an almost identical experience, and they didn't know that they faced those challenges, and we did. A system had been designed that should have been helping children with incredibly, not actually necessarily incredibly, with they just needed support. A system that had been designed to support them was actually punishing them, was almost made into kind of an assault course for them to climb through. So one of the highs has actually been able to take that and take some of those parents that I met, take them to Parliament. I held a Westminster Hall debate, I think, within the first 6 months. Got some media coverage shining a light on it. I've had the Minister down a couple of times. I've had several events in Parliament where I've been able to take constituents up, and they have informed the reforms that the government are now consulting on. So, the change to a degree is still to happen. Some things have already happened, investments being put in place. But that's probably been one of my proudest moments, being able to take the voice and the experience of people locally on an incredibly, difficult issue, and allow that to feed into a Labour government's agenda, and then setting out a pathway to how it can be fixed, albeit it won't happen overnight. I think is incredibly proud. Many of the achievements we've got. We have a little gong in the office. I probably shouldn't tell people this, but
I'll go on amongst friends.
So every time we get a casework win, there's a gong, because I think it's important it's important that you celebrate the wins. It's important for me. I feel the need to do that, because it's sometimes you can read a lot of stuff on the comments on social media and feel like. So when you get a win like that, I think it's important to celebrate it. So we helped a family, repatriate a loved one's body. We helped two businesses in Winklebury earlier on get a refund from the housing association that had sort of mischarged them on rent, and they ended up getting sort of £10,000. Some of those casework wins have been real moments of pride for me and the team, because there's the big change you're working on, the SEND reforms, the massive investment that you're voting for in the NHS, the big changes on workers' rights and things like that. And I feel incredible pride around those things. I think we've done an incredible amount in 2 years. But sometimes those little wins that you make for families, getting the repairs done in their flat or their home that they've been waiting for 3-4 years. The lows, I think, to be honest, it's probably I don't want to kind of focus on it too much, but is the challenge you face in terms of social media and the comments and the negativity that you can get. But that's not just aimed at politicians. That's kind of everywhere. I find that kind of negativity and it's not to dismiss the kind of experience that people feel, because there's huge challenges. People, as we said earlier, people are struggling to access public services or cost of living. But the hate that not just I but colleagues get on social media from across the House, I think that is challenging. I think for everyone. When I was first elected, my mum would sometimes send me a WhatsApp with a link to a comment. I can't believe this person has said this to you on social media, and I was like, I've stopped reading them. Can you stop? Can you stop sending them to me?
Thanks, Mum.
But overall, I mean, people ask me, like, do you enjoy the job? And I say I enjoy it 95% of the time.
Well, that's not bad.
Which I think is a pretty good ratio.
We'd all take that.
Absolutely, and you've got to be optimistic, I think, in this job, and I am optimistic. I'm optimistic about the change we can make. I'm optimistic about the country, the state we're in now, and the potential that we have as a town and as a country. So definitely more highs.
Good.
Definitely more highs than lows.
Oh, that's nice. You've mentioned you're part of the Armed Forces Parliamentary Scheme. Can you perhaps tell the audience what that's about and what you've learned so far from that?
So the Armed Forces Parliamentary Scheme, I think, first came about 10 years ago, possibly a little bit longer, and it's designed to give. And to be fair, there's another scheme in Parliament as well called the Parliamentary Knowledge Scheme, and these schemes are essentially set up to allow parliamentarians to know a bit more about the area which they've chosen. The Armed Forces Scheme gives you the opportunity you have to do a minimum of 15 days over the course of a year. You get to choose the service. So I chose the RAF, partly because Odium is down the road, and I wanted to do it because there's lots of veterans across Hampshire, in Basingstoke, and I think understanding what they've been through by talking to service personnel and veterans as well through the scheme has been incredibly rewarding, but also interesting. And I think it's built on my knowledge about the armed forces. I also wanted to do it because, as a parliamentarian, you may have to make quite a difficult decision around what we do with our forces, whether we go to war and things like that. And I want to know who I'm sending, or who we would be making that decision about. I think that's they've made a huge sacrifice and provide service to the country. And also just to understand and importantly to understand the day-to-day challenges that they face around kit, around housing, and things like that. So I've had the opportunity to go to bases across the country, and typically the way it works is a mixture of kind of information on sort of presentations from senior officers. Actually across service, you end up kind of talking to people in the different services about the work that they're doing and the threats that they're repelling and things like that, and a bit more about the security situation. And then you get opportunities to spend time practically with some of the troops. You can chat to them over lunch. They give you lots of opportunities. They show you their kit, and then you're given like a good amount of time to. And I always ask, why did you sign up? What's it like? What's good? What's bad? What's holding you back? And then we can take that knowledge back to Parliament and we can raise it. So I asked a question in defence questions a few months ago because someone had raised the level of kind of additional pay that they get for serving abroad, because that was when I went to Norway. I've been to Cyprus and Gibraltar, and seeing them in theatre. I mean, not but training is, incredibly inspiring. But it really does bring home what they are doing in our to protect us, essentially. And I think that's someone asked me the other day, what keeps you up at night? And for me, is what I have learned about what we face. I don't want to kind of, it's not about scaremongering, but I think we need to know as a country that we do face significant threats. That NATO said we need to expect a Russian invasion or not expect, but be prepared for by 2030. Like what they are doing, cyber, physical attacks on our infrastructure, is real. The threat is real. So being able to do this scheme and understand that has been incredibly rewarding, and I've taken a lot from it. Yeah. Which has come to an end now. I've chosen not to do it next year because it does take up a lot of time. But I will, I'm keen to do it again in future. But I chose my sister was an army officer, and my brother-in-law was in the Marines, so I chose the RAF as well, just to annoy them, because there's a healthy competition between the forces, which really comes out when you're meeting them.
That'll be great at the Christmas dinner, won't it?
Yeah, indeed.
That'll be really good. That'll be really good. I know you're passionate about so many things locally, and Basingstoke Business Week is one of them, which you and I were both involved in getting it going. And what are you looking forward to for 2026?
Basingstoke Business Week is one of them. We were the second year this year, and the reason we set that up, I think it came from a discussion that we had when you were at Destination Basingstoke, and really pleased that we've continued the group together with the council and the other kind of organisations that are involved in the core team. It came from a recognition, I think, that Basingstoke has huge amount of potential in terms of business and its economy. We're hugely productive, or more productive than most areas in the south, one of the most productive areas in the southeast, and we have huge amounts of talent. Obviously we have some really successful large companies, but we've got a huge amount of small to medium-sized companies that many people don't know about, and they do incredible things. I've met a couple doing some incredible cybersecurity stuff that are in the building that my office is in Belvedere House, which has been brilliant. Basingstoke Business Week, because it was there to celebrate business, help local business, help connect people to get to know each other a bit more, and also to try and bring more investment into Basingstoke in future. So I'm really excited about that. We're focused on skills this year, and that's a big challenge. We've got a lot of young people that are not in education, employment or training, and I want Basingstoke Business Week to be a part of addressing that. I'm looking forward to a few days off in August, and in September looking forward to coming back and pushing forward on the same priorities that we've had, and seeing more in terms of the agenda that Andy's rolling out, and tackling the cost of living, fixing our public services, education, NHS, continuing to serve our town.
Got to ask you, are you planning to go to Clacton anytime soon?
I'm not planning to go in this by-election. I suspect there may be another.
That's going to be a bit interesting, isn't it?
I was talking to, I can't remember who we were, I think it was actually on the Armed Forces Scheme, because someone had a question why we were there. But on why that has come about, the rules could not be clearer in my view. I don't want to prejudge what the independent commissioner will, he's independent and he will come to his own view. But when you get elected, it is crystal clear what the expectations are. 12 months before you are elected, you are required, for the 12 months prior to being elected rather, you are required to declare any funds over, I think, £350 that anyone might reasonably determine you may be influenced by. Now, I think it is reasonable to assume that if I were given £5 million by a crypto billionaire, and I subsequently lobbied the Bank of England on that said regulation and had kept it private, that people might reasonably assume I had been influenced by that donation. But as I say, the independent commissioner will come to a view. I think it's disgraceful, and I think it kind of reveals that party for what they are.
No, say what you think. In terms of that's brilliant, Luke. Thank you so much. I mean, I want to be clear as well. Luke doesn't know any of the questions before. We didn't talk about this, and that was the same as the last interview I did him a couple of years ago, which I found really refreshing. Not every politician's like that, and it's really good. We've covered a massive amount of ground. Luke, thank you so much.
Thanks to Luke Murphy MP and to Mark Jones for inviting us to record this episode. You can find out more about the Stronger Together Forum by visiting MrBlueSkyConsultancy.co.uk.